Are you winning? Do you need help in your life or business? Could you use some inspiration, business strategies, and success principles? I'm Daniel Gomez, award winning business coach, keynote speaker, and best selling author. On the Daniel Gomez Inspire Show, we will help you create a successful life and elevate your business. Together, we will discover the keys that unlock your success and dreams. Welcome back to another episode of the Daniel Gomez Inspire Show, where we motivate you, we inspire you. And today we got a special treat, a special gem for you. We're going to educate you at a deeper level. I'll tell you, I had an amazing opportunity to connect with this powerful woman, and just her energy, her charisma. I said, I need to have her on my show. So let's welcome to the Daniel Gomez Inspire Show, Miss Fran Caesar. How you doing this morning?
Good. How are you? Thank you for having me on your show.
I'm doing amazing. I tell you what, I was looking forward to this amazing episode. And I know
Mhm.
the beautiful person you are, but do me a favor, introduce yourself to the Daniel Gomez Inspire Show, please.
Sure. So I'm Franchelle Caesar, and I am a financial coach for spenders, specifically spenders, because I'm a spender. And I got into this work, oh, just a few years ago. It feels like longer than that, but I got into this work a few years ago when I had a problem that I needed to solve, and I couldn't find anyone to help me solve it. So I created a solution for it. And now that's what I help other women do. So that is a little bit about me.
Wow. You know what? I think I'm a spender too.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
must admit, right? We're on the show. It's like I gotta
Yeah.
I gotta admit to that. So I'm with the financial coach that
Mhm.
coaches people on spenders. So
Yeah.
ladies and gentlemen, this is a part of the show where I tell you, get out your pen, get out your paper, because Fran's gonna just drop some massive wisdom. I spent some time with her and just the wisdom she shares. So get out your pen, get out your paper. You know what we say here at the Daniel Gomez Inspire Show is that what you write down, you retain over 50% of the information. And I want you to go back and study the notes, because I can guarantee you that she's gonna drop some massive, massive wisdom. And then go back and listen to this episode again, because you can't listen to something once, you're gonna forget about 80% of it within about a month. So go back and watch it again and take your notes down. You know, Fran, I just love the way you opened up spender, right? So
Mhm.
define the word spender for us, because I think it's like the word
Yeah.
alcoholic over here.
Exactly.
Where
Yes.
there's a, I think there's a denial there.
Yeah.
Um, my wife would say,
Yeah.
"Honey, maybe we shouldn't spend that, right?" And it's like, well,
Yeah.
so talk to us. What is the definition of a spender? Let's start
Sure.
there.
So that's so good that you picked up on that because there's a little bit of like judgment built into the word, right? It's like if you consider yourself a spender, it's already like, well, I use money wrong, right? We redefine that in the financial school for spenders because we're proud to be spenders because spending is actually your superpower. And it doesn't mean that you cannot save. It just means that if given the option, if you somehow got a pile of money one day, are you more prone to save it all, or do you already have stuff in your cart on Amazon that you want to click buy for, right? And so I love spenders. The people in my group, we are proud to be spenders. It's actually a superpower. Like even the world recognizes it as an asset, but society deems it a liability. Because even like now, when the economy is doing what it does. It's a normal thing that what happens with the economy, but it's the spenders that keep the economy going. When people get nervous and they stop buying things and they stop spending and they start kind of guarding their money, it's the spenders who keep things going. So I always tell my ladies, like, you're not doing money wrong, you do money differently. And the sooner that you're able to own it and be proud of it, the sooner you can actually wield it like a superpower instead of just kind of being all over the place because you're judging yourself with it.
I love that. You're not doing money wrong. You're just doing it
Mm,
different.
that's very
So, so,
different.
so I so I think the question I want to ask you is this, because right, we teach the millionaire mindset, and to my approach is, well, I'm gonna spend because I'm not gonna stop the flow of money in my life, right?
Exactly.
But
Mhm.
I did find myself when I was younger.
Mhm.
Now, when I first started in the automotive industry,
Mhm.
I came from, I mean, I was making not bad money back, but this was, I'm gonna date myself here, ladies and gentlemen. So I think I was 25 years old, 26 years old. I was making about 40,000
Mhm.
in Texas. That's good. So we
Mhm.
didn't need nothing, so I would just spend. But then when I got into the automotive industry, my income just literally doubled overnight.
Mm.
Then now I'm like, man, now it's like I'm treating hundreds like $20 bills.
Mhm.
Now I can go buy something $1,000, no problem, whatever it was. But the thing was, this is now I extended myself too much and I didn't see it, right? I was making
Mm.
6,000 a month 25 years ago, but I was
Mhm.
spending 7,000 a month and I didn't see it.
Yeah.
What causes that that you've learned just in how you help
Mm.
people with that?
Yeah. So that's really common, especially with spenders. A lot of times we don't look at our bank account, we don't look at the credit card statement, any of that, because it's almost out of sight, out of mind. Like if I don't look at it, it didn't happen, it's fine. And even, if you have enough money to cover your bills, like I came from medicine, I practiced medicine in the hospital for 15 years. I had enough money to cover my bills. So debt wasn't a problem. Paying things over time, financing things is not a problem. But when you have a goal, then it becomes like, okay, I have to look at this because I need to steer myself towards my goal. And I feel like when you are spending and not tracking or not really um looking to see what's coming in, what's going out, it's because there's no reason to. You don't really have that goal in mind. And in your 20s, most of my spenders that come to me are 35 and above, because in your 20s, you just don't, it's not important. It's not a priority. You're living your life, you're having a good time. Not to say that you can't later when you are aware of your money, but it's not front of mind. It's not the priority. And when you actually have a motivation, a reason to look at your money, then you will start to manage it very intentionally. And all that overspending is contained because now there's something to focus on. And I remember for years, I was almost 40 when I finally was like, I want to do something else. I have a different goal.
Yeah.
And so it's not relevant until it's relevant.
I thought you were 31 years old. What are you talking about? 40.
No, I'm 47 now. I'll be 48 in March.
Actually, my birthday's
Yeah.
coming up in a couple of weeks. I'll be
Oh,
51.
really? Oh,
Yeah.
happy birthday.
So, but I love what we're talking about because so ladies and gentlemen, think about this. Do you identify with the word spender?
Mhm.
Write that down. Do I identify with the word spender? And maybe you've never really thought about it. Maybe you're like, man, why am I living paycheck to paycheck? Something that we always talk about is, if Fran in our boot camp is, are you one of those that is paycheck to paycheck? And
Mhm.
like Fran said, there's nothing wrong with spending, but first of all, the first thing is, right, how do I identify with myself?
Yeah.
I believe you can be an overspender and I
Mhm.
believe you can be an oversaver, right?
Yep.
Because you go into that lack mentality.
Yep.
And see, when I went into the automotive industry, I was before prior to that, I was saving like $500 a month, maybe $400 a month. So we had like a little, it wasn't even
Mhm.
a nest egg. I would say at the time when I started, we probably had about, I don't know, maybe 15,000, 20,000 in the bank. But in my
Mhm.
mind, like I would get upset if I wasn't able to save, but I didn't realize like, right, about the Harley, bought a new house.
Yeah.
It's like, even though I was making more money, the
Yeah.
saving kind of went out the window and I would beat myself up.
Yeah.
So what's the step somebody can take, right? They get a promotion at work. Maybe they're an
Mhm.
entrepreneur that started a business and now they're making more
Mhm.
money than ever.
Yep.
And right, they don't want to identify themselves, right? Because everybody hears the word abundance and increase, but it's one
Mhm.
thing to hear it, right? To know about it, but it's one thing, another different thing to live it.
Yeah.
And what's one word of wisdom or two things that you can help share with our
Mhm.
audience of what they can do where they're like, right? Because for me, when my savings would go below 10,000, I'd freak out, like, oh, right, in
Mhm.
my mind. So
Yeah.
talk to us about your wisdom on that, if you don't mind.
Yeah. What I love is like what you're describing as lifestyle creep, right? You make a little more money, you got a little more expenses, and you have a few more bills or you upgrade something. And so it kind of creeps up as the money creeps up. And again, is that aligned with who you are? Is it aligned with how you want to show up in the world? And this, your alignment with who you are goes well beyond any goals that you have for yourself or anything that you set. It's who do you want to be? Who are you showing up as? And what was happening with me and what I see happening a lot of times with my clients is that they are the thoughts that they have about money is driving their spending, but the thoughts that they have and the stories that they have are not aligned with who they want to be.
Mm.
Who you are in your 20s is different than who you are in your 30s and your 40s because your priorities change. But the money stories that we have and the thoughts that we have about money came from when we were like 8 years old, 7 years old, and what we saw our parents doing and our aunts and our uncles and other people around us. And we've taken those stories and they're dictating our whole life, even though they're not aligned with who we are. So I remember when I finished medical school, I bought this big house, right? I had two little schnauzers and I bought this 5 bedroom house. And I was the first one in my family to go to college and that kind of thing. So I thought I needed to have this thing. We all have Christmas, all the holidays at my house. I thought I needed to have this house, but that's not who I am as a person. I want a little cottage on land, just me and the kids. And when I could see the difference, it was huge. I didn't want the big house. I didn't need all that upkeep, all that maintenance. I was living out of alignment. I thought I was depressed. I thought I had anxiety, all these things. I never could sleep. I remember always buying a new mattress because I could never get good sleep. It was because I was living out of alignment. And a lot of
And let me
people,
ask you this,
mhm,
I love what we're talking about. Do you think it's because maybe you felt pressure, like
mhm,
that you had something to prove maybe to your mom or to your dad? That's why I'm a doctor, right? I think when you hear the word
mhm,
doctor, you hear I'm a millionaire is what a lot of people associate that. But when I break it
mhm,
down, it's like in San Antonio,
mhm.
a general MD, the average general MD is $130,000 a year.
Exactly.
And it sounds like a lot for those that are making 20, 30,000, but if you look at it, like
Mhm,
your take home pay of 130,000, you're looking
mhm.
like every 2 weeks, like $3,000, which is it's a lot,
Yeah,
but it's not a lot. And
right.
did you find yourself like for you,
Mhm.
right? Because you went about the house,
Yeah,
because I think a lot of times people buy things because they have a
mm,
persona or the pressure of
exactly.
trying to make their mom or dad happy. Was that kind of maybe what you felt into?
Exactly. It's exactly. You're spot on. It's not even just your family, it's all the people. Because, like you said, when people see that, oh, you're a doctor, they expect you to have, you're driving this kind of car, you're living in this kind of house, you have these kind of clothes on. And when like the people I look up to now are people who they may have that title, but when I see them, they're so regular, they're so down to earth, they're living the life that they want. That is real wealth, right? Like that's the wealth. And would you rather have the outward showings of money, or would you rather actually have a pile of money in the bank that is not, you're spending money on things that are aligned with who you are and what you care about? And that's different for everyone versus just to show people like, yes, I'm living up to your expectation because they don't care. Nobody cares. But everybody's thinking about themselves. They see you and they may have an opinion, but then they go about their business and you're left paying all the bills, which is what I
Yeah.
was. So it's fascinating what a shift can be made and how much I tell people you can give yourself a raise by just deciding what's important to you. Now, it's not easy because at the beginning, you will feel that pressure, as you're adjusting your mindset to say, you know, do I care about someone else's expectations? Because people will say things to you and they will make comments. And if your mindset is not right, if you're not convicted about what exactly you want, how you want your life to look, you'll make you feel kind of ashamed, like, oh gosh, I really should go out and get. And it's like, no, this is what I like. This is who I am. So
Yeah.
it's a whole
So
process.
I love what we're talking about. Ladies and gentlemen, write this down. Am I buying things for the right reasons?
Hmm.
Am I buying things for the right reasons? And write this other question down, ladies and gentlemen. What's the motive that I want this Mercedes? What's the motive that I want this? Because for me, and something that I came to reality with, because people say, "Oh, Daniel, you're this and that." I'm like, let me tell you something. I drive a Corvette because I like a Corvette. I don't drive a
Exactly.
Corvette because somebody else has a Corvette. And
Exactly.
when I was in the automotive industry, I would see so many people, Fran, that would come in and I would ask them, let me ask you a question. Like, why do you want to buy this truck?
Hmm.
Well, right.
Hmm.
My dealership was in the heart of Southside San Antonio. So we had a lot of Spanish speaking and Mexican people there. And they would come, oh, what's my cuñado, right? My brother-in-law bought one. My cuñado bought one. I'm like, well, are you buying it because he bought one or you're buying it because you want one? Like what was the motive? What was the trigger?
Yep.
And I would tell people, we're not going to sell you this truck because I'm not going
Hmm.
to have them repo it. Even though you
Yeah.
got approved,
Mhm.
I'm not gonna have you be car poor because if
Yes.
you're car poor, it doesn't do you any good.
Exactly.
And I share that with you, ladies and gentlemen, because I want you to think about what's the motive behind you buying something.
Mhm.
It could be a pair of shoes, it could be a car, it could be a house. What's the motive?
Yeah.
And I love what we're talking about, fam, because I want you to understand the flip side of that, ladies and gentlemen, because we teach this at our boot camps is it's okay to have nice things
Mhm.
as long as nice things don't have you and you're
Exactly.
buying it for the right reasons and you can afford it.
Exactly.
And because I don't believe that, right? I don't believe we have a God that is poor. I truly believe that we serve
Mhm.
the God of increase, the God of multiplication.
Yep.
It's all in the Bible. And
Mhm.
but I share that too. But with that comes responsibility.
Mhm.
And for me, I always tell people, look, if you want a Rolex, by all means go buy a Rolex.
Mhm.
But buy the Rolex because you want it. If you're
Mhm.
buying a Louis Vuitton because somebody else bought one, well then
Mhm.
it ain't gonna last.
Yep.
But what's your perception of that? Give us your
I
input.
love that. I love it. And I love that you also work with spenders because it's a different kind of financial conversation when you're dealing with spenders because like you said you drive a Corvette because you've made a conscious decision that this is what you want and you love it and it's not the general financial information that we're given. It's like no, get a cash car, this is what you eat beans and rice and that kind of thing. It's like no, it's specific to who you are. You may not have everything, you can't have a collection of everything, but if you know yourself, you know that thing that's important to you and the reason behind it. And so what you said reminded me of what I have a lot of people who come to me and they talk about, food is their biggest expense. Oh, it's food. If I could just control what I spend on food. And when we really look at it, they're going to restaurants often, be it fast food or fancy restaurants, but they're eating out often. It's not because they want to go and have the food. It's because there's something going on with their house, their kitchen, the way it's set up, the way they don't enjoy being in there. There's something about it that doesn't feel fun. And all they really want is connection. And so sometimes we start with food and it's like, well, you can keep eating it. Like, I don't make people change anything. Like, don't change anything while we're getting this together because once it clicks for you, you're going to change and it won't be forced. So I never say cut up your credit card, stop eating out, none of that. But let's talk about your kitchen. Let's talk about, I remember part of what I did was I had to take, so I had my kitchen was set up the way my mother's kitchen is set up. And I ended up, when I realized that it wasn't working for me, I took everything from the pantry and everything from the cabinets and I switched it. And I put the dishes in the pantry and the food in the cabinets. And all of a sudden, it was like a whole different experience being in there. And so I tell people you have to find the way that feels the best for you. And that's going to change your behavior. If it doesn't feel fun in there, if there's no window and everyone's in this room and you're over here isolated like some kind of a hostage
So
in
I
your
have a quick
kitchen.
question because something that you
Uh-huh.
said when we spoke the first time. So now I understand, right? So that's a way to gamify your kitchen, right?
Gamify the kitchen. Exactly. We gamify everything because if it's not fun,
Yes.
you're not going to enjoy it. And that's part of,
But just to be fair with the audience, give
uh-huh,
us okay, because when we spoke, I really love that you said this. It spoke to me.
mhm,
The word gamify, right?
uh-huh.
What's your definition of that? That way they have a point of
Yeah,
reference for that.
exactly. Turn it into a game. Find the thing you have to do and make it fun. You can do it however you want. This comes from someone who grew up perfectionist kind of background, obviously in medicine, evidence-based, all these things. I had to throw all of that out the window and say, you know what? What if there is no way, there's not one set way to do this right? There's no right, there's no wrong. It's just figure out how to make it fun and do it that way. Be it the laundry, the dishes, the kitchen, the cooking, anything. What is it that you really want at the heart of this situation? Usually with food is connection. So people spend money, extra money, because they're trying to connect over a meal. But what if you could connect in the kitchen? What if you could bring it somehow, have the family in there? What if that's the conversation time? What if, it's different for everyone, but when you find that thing that works for you, you end up spending more time in there that feels pleasant versus trying to be out connecting over a meal and spending, 50, $75 each time. So then you've given yourself a raise again. But yeah, gamifying it is just finding a way to make that task not feel like a task, but actually feel fun. And I love check boxes. I love point systems. I love like for the groceries, the weekly groceries. The average when I started, it was $45 per person per week. Now it's like $65 per person per week in the grocery store. So if you know that number and you shop weekly, can we get you, can you beat the number? Can you beat that number each week?
Gamify it. Yeah.
Gamify it. Yeah, it's fun.
Are you an aspiring speaker? Do you have a book that you've been wanting to write for months, maybe even years? Or are you an aspiring podcaster? You want to start that podcast like the Daniel Gomez Inspire Show and don't know where to start? Well, at Daniel Gomez Enterprises, we can help you do all three. We can help you become that paid speaker, share your story to the world, write your book, and get your podcast launched and help you produce it. We'd love to help you. Give us a call at 210-663-5954. That's 210-663-5954. We can help you become that paid speaker, write that book, and launch your podcast. We'd love to hear from you. Give us a call now. So you're saying that. So think about this, ladies and gentlemen. Where do you need to gamify your life?
Mm-hmm.
Where do you need to, you know, your kitchen's a mess. You know, you're not happy with it. And when you said that, you know what came to mind? I think
What's
of a
that?
story where, where the mother and the daughter, their Thanksgiving's around the corner. So they're getting the ham ready. And
Mm-hmm.
next thing you know, the mom's getting the ham ready and the daughter's observing her. And the mom cuts off both ends of the ham and puts it in the pan. And the little girl asked the mom, well, mom, why do you do that? Well, I don't know, because your grandma did it. So then they
Mm-hmm.
pick up the phone and, well, why though? She goes, well, I don't know. Call your grandma. So then they call the grandma and the little girl's like, Grandma, we're here getting the ham ready for, because you're coming over. Why do you cut off? Why did you cut off the hands? She goes, oh, darling, that's easy. We didn't have a big enough pan.
Right, right. We have these old stories and we're still using them today. And we didn't
Yes.
understand them then and they made no sense. Yeah. Once you get to the point where you start to question everything, it'll change your whole life. Why do I do it this way? Why do it changes everything.
Yeah. And I
Yeah.
love what we're talking about, because think about this. It's like in life, ladies and gentlemen, you weren't born to be poor.
Right.
And people spend for different reasons, right? And you got to think about what Fran is saying. And maybe you're spending to connect, but maybe the thing is this, maybe you have bad memories in your kitchen with your family,
Yes.
right? There's could be
Mm-hmm.
traumas that are stuck there. So it goes a lot deeper than just spending money, right? I think the mistake that people make, Fran, that from what I've seen is
Mm-hmm.
is they see the symptom. The
Mm-hmm.
symptom is I hoard, I
Yep.
save too much, or I
Mm-hmm.
spend too much. And the truth is, when you go to the root cause of it and you're able
Mm-hmm.
to address that, that's
Yeah.
where the freedom comes. That's where the breakthrough comes. So
Mm-hmm.
so so let me ask you this. What are the two biggest root causes that you've seen that you
Mm-hmm.
can share with our audience that goes
Yeah.
back to maybe a family trauma or a
Mm-hmm.
belief system that is there because of the fact that they got it from their mom, their dad, or hey,
Mm-hmm.
grandma just always did that. And now they're like, right? They're overextended on credit cards. And ladies and
Mm-hmm.
gentlemen, there's nothing wrong with having nice things. Like, believe me,
Mm-hmm.
I love to
Yeah.
eat out. Our average bill now when we go out to eat, we probably spend
Mhm.
about $70 easily, maybe 100.
Mhm.
But it's
Yeah.
like, because going back to the Corvette, something happens when you raise your lid of finances, right? Your
Mhm.
status grows some. And then what happens is now bigger opportunities that wouldn't come your way are coming your way.
Mhm.
But you
Yeah.
got to find the balance, because if not, you're stuck on the overspending aspect of it. Talk to us about that though,
Right.
because I want people to
Yeah.
understand. I love what we're talking about.
Yeah. So I actually have four what I call toxic spending patterns. And this is after coaching spenders for 4 years. I've realized this year actually, because one of my superpowers is like pattern recognition. And I was like, hold on. I think of all these people, it boils down to like four patterns that we're just living out. And those patterns are rooted in the stories that we have and the relationship with money that we've had since we were kids. And people go in these different ways, and you can have one or two of these patterns at play, but you definitely have one of these four patterns. And so I call them the winner, the seeker, the runner, and the protector. And they're all I call them toxic because not to judge what your behavior is, but because they're not serving you in this season. They may have served you before, but now that you're in a different place and you actually have different goals, it's time to get to the root of them. And the really cool thing about the pattern, so we created a quiz to help people figure out what their toxic spending pattern is. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. Once you understand, like, oh, this is why I'm wandering around Target. Once you see, like, oh, this is why we keep eating out, right? You can't unsee it, and then we start to deal with it. And so the majority of my coaching is to help people get to the heart of what's causing this pattern and then being able to turn it around. So I'll tell you briefly. So the winners are the people who they overspend because they love feeling like they're beating the game, right? Like they have the coupons, they're the VIP shopper. When they get sent the, extra whatever, your preferred day, you get in an hour early at the store or whatever. They're like, they don't just go just because they get that perk because it makes them feel important. So they're always kind of chasing that feeling of like self-esteem and importance and being like the, a status symbol. And then we have our seekers, and those are people, and I'm a seeker, people who always have a running list, right? It's so much easier to go out and hunt for the next thing than it is to deal with whatever's on your plate for today. So if I have something that may be a little bit, maybe a difficult conversation or something that I'm kind of emotionally wanting to avoid, it's so much easier for me to just go drive around and see what homes are for sale in the neighborhood. Right? That was
Yes.
a big one for
So,
me.
so,
And
so you're saying the seeker doesn't deal with real issues, maybe?
yeah, well, the two patterns, the winner and the seeker, they're always trying to seek pleasure, and then the runner and the protector are trying to avoid pain. It's two sides of the same coin. But yeah, so it's not so much not wanting to deal with the issues. It's just it's easier. Let me go and hunt for, like, I had one lady who needed a white shirt for her cruise, and she was obsessed because you get like this level of obsession of like, I have to find the perfect white shirt. There's an element of perfectionism in there where it's like, I got to get the perfect pair of shoes. I got to get the perfect, I got to plan the perfect vacation. And they're always trying to find the next hurdle to jump over to make life, perfect. And so you end up overspending because you don't ever feel like you have enough. You don't ever feel like you are enough. And that's where the root comes in. So we start to help, baby step you towards understanding that thought that you have.
I
And
love
then,
that.
yeah,
Uh,
it's
So,
like
so,
a
so, ladies and
miracle.
gentlemen, do you identify as the winner
Hmm.
or as the seeker?
A
And I would
seeker.
even challenge you, go back right now and press your rewind button, 15 seconds, and listen to the description again. Now
Yeah.
tell us about the last two. I want to learn more about this
Yeah.
last
So the runner is someone who is trying to avoid feeling negative emotion. And this is just adulting in general, right? Like this is very easily can slip into behavior like escapism, like scrolling on the phone too much, even alcohol and drugs, like in extreme cases. So, shopping, overeating, this is just another way to escape. So, life is just overwhelming. It feels like, the kids are stressing you out and work is stressing you out, and you are just going to go shopping, right? It just get away, escape your life for a little bit, but then the credit card bill comes and then you're like, "Oh gosh, what did I do?" So I see this a lot with people, especially people who like to take trips. They're on I had two clients tell me this because I thought, what do you mean? But they were on the plane coming back from their vacation, planning the next vacation, already planning, right? Because they were just like they just wanted to escape their real life. But all these things come at a cost. And so we work with all four of these spending patterns because there's a simple cure for it, but it's something that people don't know how to deal with or want to deal with. And the last one is protector. Protector is also one that can go into the extremes. These are people you normally consider like hoarders, but we don't use that word because it has a lot of judgment. We say collectors. You collect a lot of things.
Yeah.
You know? But and that one is someone who feels like they always want to make sure they have what they need, so they don't get rid of anything just in case I might need that later. And there are also people who want to make sure that they're never without, because maybe something happened when they were younger where they asked for help and they didn't get it. So now they make sure, I don't want to borrow anything from anyone. I want to make sure I have my own. So I have the jet ski, I have all the lawnmower, I have all the tools, I have all the things because I want to be completely self-reliant. Well, where are you going to put all that stuff? Now you have all these things, and kind of to your point, like your possessions are now possessing you. You have storage sheds you have to pay for, you have, rental thing, all these things that you have because you can't be in community where you rely on other people and be interdependent. You're hyper independent. Everything you have is yours. And I also see this with moms who maybe when they were growing up, they didn't have enough. So now that they have kids, the kids are in all the sports and they have all the newest this and all the newest that. And it's because they can't say no to their kids because of something, it feels like something about them. So people find themselves in these patterns, and sometimes you have two patterns that are at play. And once we can identify your pattern, just like that, we can turn it around because I know exactly what your sticking point is. Your story may be different, but your pattern gives a clue.
So let me ask you this. Something that comes to mind is what I've seen is somebody's doing good.
Hmm.
They go to law school, they get their MD, or they just become good at business.
Hmm.
But what happens is they start spending because they feel unworthy and deserving.
Yeah.
They start to self-sabotage, and they feel bad because maybe there's 50,000, 100,000 in the bank.
Hmm.
And instead of allowing that nest egg to grow to some higher value, they feel
Hmm.
the need to spend it, and it's because they feel unworthy and deserving of it. What would
Yeah.
you fall under?
Yeah. So that depending on their upbringing and what their personal story is, and I would say take the quiz. Everyone should take the quiz because the questions that it'll ask, it breaks it down and lets you know what your pattern is. But in that situation, it can come from one of two things. And most commonly what I see, it comes from environment, right? Like you feel the worth based on the environment you're in or the environment you grew up in. So if you don't have a mentor or someone who is in community with you, who is an example of like, hey, we're going to grow our money, then you'll feel like the people that you're with, you're outrunning them, you're outpacing them, and how dare you have more when so many have less. And so you're just automatically subconsciously level yourself out with people who have less because you can't
Mm.
stand head and shoulders above others. But if you're with people who are like, no, we need more so we can serve more, so we can help more, so we can have the freedom to do things, then you're going to raise your level and do that same thing too, which is why it's really important who you associate with. That's really important. I don't think people realize that. And it's not something they teach you as you're getting an advanced degree. If you're the first, like I was, to go, and get an advanced degree, nobody's saying, okay, by the way, your mindset also needs to be elevated because you're just going to
Yeah.
give the money away.
It's kind of like being an employee. You leave the 9 to 5 because you want to start a business. Then you start your business, but you're still thinking like the 9 to 5er. And it's the fact that it's not that they don't have a good idea. It's not that they don't
Right.
have a good concept or what
Hmm.
God put in your heart. It's just that you're still thinking like an employee. So you're not
Yeah.
developing that business mindset. And I love what you're
Right.
saying with that. So let me ask you
Exactly.
this. What is something big that you had to overcome, like that you had to deal with for yourself that you can share with us?
Gosh, all of the above. So, and I love what you're doing with your group because that's exactly what people need in community. But my big thing, my wake up call was my debt. And it goes to the fact that, even as I started to pay off my debt, I had multiple six figures of debt, right? I had over $500,000 in debt. And even once I realized it was a problem, because it was never a problem, made a lot of money, I spent a lot of money. And even, to people who say, oh, well, you had all that debt, you were a doctor, you were able to pay it off. It's all relative, right? It's all relative. You make money, you spend money, you buy things on payments, you have debt. So as I started to pay off my debt, I remember people in my family that were just totally against it. They were like, what are you doing? Why are you doing it? You don't have to do that. And that was the environment I was in. That was the community. And I didn't have people in real life who understood the new goals that I had. I had to find people online I had a Facebook group that was my lifeline. These girls, my whole journey was mapped out as I was figuring things out. But I had to have people, I had podcasts in my ear, I had Jim Rohn in my ear. I had to have people who had a bigger vision than the ones that were closest to me. So I could say, you know what, I think there's something bigger. Let me get rid of this debt, which was like an anchor in my life, and see what else is out there. And then don't even get me started when I left medicine. It was like, you studied all this time and you're throwing it all away. No, I'm taking the skills I acquired and I'm transferring it to something else that will help more people, And so that's a really important thing for your listeners to know, is that if you're in an environment where you feel like the growth mindset is not there, where people are not striving to be better, where people are not pushing you to be better, you're in the wrong environment. You can still love those people. You can still hang out with them. By all means, go to Thanksgiving dinner. However, when it's time for you to level up, have people in your ear and have people in your Zoom room that are actually going to push you and pull you to the next level.
I love it, man. This is some you're dropping some massive wisdom. And the thing is this, think about what you said. Fran just said she went to school, practiced medicine for over a decade, probably, I would have to guess.
Mm-hmm.
And she walked away from it and people started judging her. But she didn't allow that, ladies and gentlemen, to hinder her from following her desire that God had put in her heart.
Mm-hmm.
And so many of us, and you probably know somebody as you're listening to this, is that you're unhappy in your job because maybe you're that lawyer. I know I've met so many lawyers that are happy, so many doctors that are unhappy. Or maybe you're that professional with the title, and maybe you're addicted to the title, but you hate the job. I want to encourage you, walk away from it. If Fran can do it, if I can do it, I walked away from a $250,000 a year job because it's a decision that I was crazy enough to follow my dream. I always say, and you got to be a little bit crazy. You got to be a crazy because you're going against the odds. You're going
Yeah.
against the normal of people. You got to
Mm-hmm.
not care what anybody says. And I love the fact, but look at what you're doing now. Now you're helping people in countless areas of the world.
Mm-hmm.
Now you're doing even more impact, right? Because a lot of people don't see this. Instead of them coming to you when they're already sick and dying, now you're
Mm-hmm.
saving them on the front end from all the stress and anxiety and all
Yep.
the BS, right? So you're really doing pre-medicine is what I see.
It exactly, yes. That was my prayer. That it's so funny you said that. That was my prayer when I was because I worked in a hospital. I didn't have any well patient visits. They were all like really sick, critically ill. And I remember I would always pray, like, Lord, show me what I could do to help people before they get to this point. And a lot of times, illness that I would see, like you could have a chronic illness, but it gets worse because you're stressed, and it
Mm.
gets worse because you've missed your medicines, and some of those people are trying to escape. We would always have teachers at the end of the summer. We'd have teachers in the hospital and they'd have like mysterious belly aches and things like that. It's because they didn't want to go back to school in the fall. They didn't want to start that all over again. And consciously it wasn't intentional, but subconsciously it was like, how can I get out of this, right? And so just realizing that just because you picked a career when you were in your teenage years doesn't mean that you have to stick with that through your whole life. You're not trapped in a decision you made 20 years ago. You just have to be brave enough to defend it or stick up to it or just be silent when people are judging it
And not care what they say. I always
and
say
not care what
that.
they
I
say.
used to always say that I didn't, right? It didn't bother me when people said it, but really it did to an extent until I
Mm-hmm.
really stopped caring what people were saying or thinking. That's when
Mm-hmm.
the true freedom came, and that's when our business exploded.
Yes.
Let me ask you this. What is, as we're coming to the end of this, is what is a money belief that you see that a lot of your clients have to get over to really help them? Like the money aspect of it, because there is a money aspect of it
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
also. What is something that
absolutely.
you see with that?
I think one of the big ones, and we've turned it into a mantra, but it is, I have everything that I need. I have everything that I need, which is very different from I don't need anything. I don't need anything. It's not going to get you there, but I have everything that I need will get you there. And the reason is that it causes your mind, your brain is like Google. You tell it something, it'll go find evidence. It causes your mind to find evidence that you have everything that you need. It puts you in a space of gratitude. And gratitude, as you know, is like the most powerful place to be. If you're out and about and you're hunting, right? You're a seeker and you're looking for that next thing in Target to add to your collection, and you think, I have everything that I need. Then you realize, I have clothes in my closet that have the tags on them. I don't need any more clothes. I have food, right? Can we shop from the pantry? Can we shop from the freezer? You may be able to skip the grocery store for 3 weeks in a row if you just take the stuff that you already have and start getting creative and cooking from that. It's a very joyful thing to do. And it's eye-opening when you realize I have everything that I need,
And what's the
right?
other saying? What was the opposite you don't want us to say?
The opposite is I don't need anything else.
Mm.
For some reason, that almost makes you rebel against yourself because it's like an authority figure telling you you don't need anything else. Well, I think I do, like you want to tell yourself, well, I just want this thing. I want this one. And instead of realizing, no, my life is beautiful. I have everything that I need. I don't even need to go on a big expensive vacation all the time. I can go to the park, be in the trees. I have fresh air. It's beautiful here, right? But you don't start looking for the beauty until you realize that everything you're searching for and trying to buy outside of yourself, it really is inside of you. It's a transformational thought.
Wow. What's a scripture or a quote that you rely on times of adversity? A
Oh gosh,
scripture or a
there's so
quote that
many.
you rely on in times of adversity?
Gosh, there's so many. It depends on the adversity for sure, but there's one thing that I come back to most frequently, and it is the story of Noah's Ark. And I think it's the story that I have interpreted through my life experience, because when you read the story in the Bible, you may get one idea of, okay, so there's this guy, God told him to build this boat. Okay, great. But when you really look at it and realize that Noah didn't go out into the woods with traps and like, he didn't go trap the animals and bring them to the ark. He built the boat like God told him to, and the animals just came walking up. Like he didn't have to put forth effort to make the dream a reality. He just had to be obedient to God, do his honest part, and let God do the rest. And I love that in business, because sometimes we feel like, especially like in marketing and sales, right? Gotta go out, I gotta make the people. It's like, no, you're doing your part, God is doing his part. Your part is to create the offer, tell people about it, show up on the podcast, right? I can't look at the people in your audience and say, oh, this would be a great fit and that would be a great fit. No, that's up to the Holy Spirit to touch people's hearts and decide, like, have them come. And so that one I rely on often, especially in business, because I know that I'm not doing it all. I'm doing my honest part. And my part is to listen to the Lord. When I first wake up, I always ask, what do you want me to do today? And then be fully yielded so that whatever it is, it's a yes, no matter how scary it is. That's my part, and leave the rest to God. So Noah's Ark, that's the way I see it in my mind. And
I've heard that story a million times, and I've never thought about the animal part.
yeah,
And
yeah,
it's you say that because I put a post yesterday, right? If God gives you the business, he'll bring you the clients. And
yes.
there's always a smart butt out there saying, well, yeah, but I'm like, I didn't even respond, right? I've learned to ignore it. But I
Hmm.
love what you're saying, because it's like God brought Noah the snakes,
Yes.
butterflies,
Yeah.
everything.
He wasn't out there with a
And in
net.
business, you're
Yeah.
overthinking it because we hear the world's way of doing business. I have a saying
Yes.
is I'm of God's economy, not of the world's.
Yes.
And when you take that perspective, it's like if you're sowing and reaping and giving your first
Mm-hmm.
dime out of every dollar, and then you're paying yourself that second dime to yourself,
Mm-hmm.
how's God not going to bless you financially because you're being responsible to the laws of the world he created? So you
Yes.
saying that is, don't worry about the how, ladies and gentlemen, is what Fran's saying. Don't worry about the how. Just build the ark. Go
Yes.
out there and start the business. Go out there and do it. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
not saying burn all the ships like I did, but If God tells you to do it, well, then do it that way. But if you need to start somewhere, and then make yourself available to receive what God has for you. That's so
Yes,
powerful.
absolutely. Yeah, the how is not even your business. The
Yes.
how, it's the what and the why. God takes care of the how. Stop trying to do God's business. That's
Yeah.
not your business.
Well, Fran, somebody wants to connect with you. How do they get a hold of you?
Well, so the easiest way is probably to hop on my Instagram, which is 1 million spenders. From there, I'm sharing on YouTube as well. But the first place to start is the quiz. Because I'm telling you, you want to know your spending type. Even if you're a saver, that's quiz will tell you if you're a saver, and we have resources for you too. But take that quiz and see what your toxic spending pattern is.
Awesome. And we'll put all that information in the show notes, ladies and gentlemen. And
Thank
thank you,
you.
Fran, for being an amazing rock star guest. I told
Thank
you, like, it doesn't even seem like we've
you.
been talking almost an hour already. Like,
I
where did it
know.
go?
So fun.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us here. Please go back and listen to this episode for yourself and really ask yourself the questions, right? Think about which one of those four are you? Are you the winner, the seeker, the protector, or the runner? And that's the Holy Spirit to guide you. And if you're stuck in life, if you're stuck in business, if maybe your finances are out of whack, well, then we want to invite you November 22nd, 23rd to the Makings of a Millionaire Mind Bootcamp right here in San Antonio, Texas at the Norris Conference Center. We have some amazing speakers that are going to come that are successful in life and business themselves. And of course, I'll be speaking a huge part of it. But like Fran said, it's proximity. You're trying to do it alone and you can't. So I would love to see you here November 22nd, 23rd. And then go get a copy of our book, The Makings of a Millionaire Mind, on Audible at Amazon. Go get your copy today. Until next week, everybody, we'll see you here on the Daniel Gomez Inspire Show. And thank you once again, Fran. Woo!
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
This is Daniel Gomez Inspires, and thank you for listening to our show today. Please share this episode with a friend, leave us a review, and subscribe to our show. And for listening to our show today, I want to give you a free gift. I want to invite you to our Millionaire Mind community. Text the word millionaire, that's millionaire, to 210-942-5059. Yes, join our community today and receive millionaire affirmations, inspirational quotes on a weekly basis. That's 210-942-5059. Text the word millionaire today and join our community. And once again, thank you for listening to our show.